People need to stop saying, just move to where the jobs are. Because every time I hear this advice, it sounds super simple on paper, but in reality, it doesn't really work out that way. I mean, for one, move with what money? Like, seriously, what money are you going to move with? Like, moving requires a ton of money, and money usually requires having a job. So you're already starting off from a bad spot. If someone's in a situation where they're struggling financially, telling them to just pack it up and move to a more expensive place in the country is not really advice. At least not advice that's really helpful. And let's say someone does try and move. They scrape up every penny they've been saving for months. They cash out their savings, maybe borrow some money from their parents or friends, who knows. But they take a risk and they move to the big city because that's where the opportunity is. So now what? Because if you live somewhere that's mostly just dead end jobs, most likely that's all you're used to. Like, that's the only thing that's on your resume. Retail, fast food, gig work, whatever keeps the lights on. So now you arrive to the big city, and the assumption is not just upgrade your life. But guess what you're walking into? You're going to a place where thousands of millions of people already live there. People who grew up there, people who have networks, people who know a guy who know a guy who knows Jeff Bezos. I don't know. And that matters a lot. A lot of these jobs is not what you know, it's who you know. Like, the easy way to get a job is to know someone at the company. And if you're the new guy in town, tough luck. And on top of that, you're not the only guy doing this. You probably got thousands of people moving there at the same time, often who are highly educated, highly experienced, and probably willing to take less pay. Like, they'll do anything just to get their foot in the door. And now you're not even competing with just, more jobs. You're competing with more people for the same jobs in a place where everything costs more. And yeah, I get it. Someone's going to say, well, just get a degree. Go into the trades, get a certification, whatever this, that, and third. And generally, that's not bad advice. But a lot of people already do that. And so did everyone else in the city. A degree doesn't automatically just make you stand out anymore. And a lot of high paying jobs, that's just the entry ticket. That just gets you a foot in the door. And you're still competing with people who have degrees, plus experiences, plus connections, plus that one guy who knows Jeff Bezos. Who knows? And to all this, I think instead of just moving where the jobs are, only move if you have a clear game plan and not just a vague idea. Like, if you're gonna move, anywhere, make sure you have the job secured. Get that down first. That's rule number one. Maybe some people can make it work, but me personally, I won't be moving halfway across the country on a maybe or just hoping for the best. And also, do the math before you move to a new place. How much is rent? How many months of saving do I realistically have? Like, what's the cost of living here compared to there? And how long can I survive with no income, without a job? Like, you need to have these things in order before you just up and move. A lot of people don't fail because they're unqualified. They just fail because they run out of runway. Like, they don't have enough resources or time to get stuff done. But even if you have all that in place, a big thing you're losing is your social connections and your support. Your family, your friends, people who can help you move a couch or, lend you some money when times are tough. Maybe watch your kids for a couple of hours. Or maybe just exist nearby so you're not doing everything alone. Like, if I'm on hard times, I know I can go back to my parents' house or crash on a buddy's couch for a few days. If things get rough, there's usually someone here near me. That's a little harder to do when your parents or your buddy is 5 states away. And sure, you can make friends, you can make connections in a new place, but, that takes time. Say you move somewhere, your money dries up faster than you thought it would. Now what? Having that support system helps a lot when trying to get ahead financially. Like, we all know, rent is sky high right now. One of the easiest way to avoid all this crazy rent, just live with your parents or split it with a buddy. And sure, after a certain age, no one's live with their parents or live with a roommate, but there's no shame in that. As long as you're getting ahead, that's all that matters. I mean, just having someone to rely on should be the one thing holding everything together while you're just trying to get ahead. But yeah, this whole move the jobs are is not as black and white as people like to make it out to be. You should move up if you can, but it doesn't always work. Like one thing that's super ironic is this advice goes both directions. People in big cities they get told, "Oh, just move somewhere cheaper." People in smaller towns get told the opposite. Just move to the big city. Like no matter where you live, the solution is always the same. Just leave. Like, if everyone's always in the wrong place and the answer is always just uproot your life, why not ask, why is opportunity so uneven in the first place? Because when you zoom out, the real issue isn't just people making bad decisions. Well, sometimes it is. I'm not gonna lie. There are a lot of people who just make dumb money choices. But there are some places that have just been hollowed out and they've been falling through the cracks. Like, there are some towns that are just really run down. And odds are, if you grew up in a place like this, you can't just up and leave. Like I said, this takes money. So yeah, people chase opportunity. Of course they move where they can, but this also creates this constant cycle where some areas are just overcrowded and expensive, while others are just left crumbling, falling apart. And then we want to blame people for not being able to just relocate their way out of it. Because at some point, it just stops making sense. Because if the only solution that we can offer to people is just moving somewhere else, then we're not really solving the problem. We're just reshuffling people around. Like, problems still exist. We just have new people in their place. And I get the counter argument. Someone might say, yeah, sure, but what's the alternative? You're just gonna sit and complain for the rest of your life? And I get it. I want to offer, let's say, two solutions. The first one's just making places more affordable and better places to live in general. Like real jobs, real investment, fixing the infrastructure. That way people don't have to leave just to survive. Basically, just improve the places that need help the most. Now, these places get better, they get more jobs, these jobs pay a little more, people are making more, and things, ideally, will get better for everyone in the area. And two, I feel like we should make remote work more available. And obviously, this is going to work for every job. Like, I'm not sure how you make the guy flipping burgers at McDonald's remote, but there's lots of 9 to 5 office jobs that don't really need to be at an office. Like, does an accountant really need to drive 30 minutes to a job, just look at spreadsheets all day? Do I really need to be in an office just respond to emails? Like, they could have just as easily done this at home. And I'm not an accountant. I don't know what they do all day, but I feel like most of their job could be done at home. And if so, why not? Let them work at home. That way they can work in a low cost of living area and don't have to move to big cities for work. Plus, the money they make could be spent locally to improve the area they actually live in. It puts more money in the places where you actually live, and these places will get, a little bit better. I don't know. Is all this easy? No. Will it work for every job? Not at all. But neither is telling tons of people that the only way forward is to just uproot your entire life and hope it all works out in a city you can barely afford to live in. Sure, it's easier said than done, but I think it's better than just letting these poor places stay poor when we could do something. Because just move where the jobs are isn't a real solution. Because if moving is the answer, why do so many people still struggle after they do it? I don't know. I don't have all the answers. And maybe there isn't even a perfect solution. But I do know that telling someone to just pack up their entire life isn't nearly as simple as people make it out to be. So, what do you think? Is just move where the jobs are actually good advice? Or do we need to rethink how these things work? I generally want to hear what you guys have to think, so leave a comment down below. If you liked the video, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you're brand new around here, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. I'm out.